first clarify that we are speaking about equity mutual funds, and these things you don't necessarily need to calculate them. Mohit, there are services that give you these ratios. We're just going to help people identify how to make sense of these ratios. So if they see a Sharpe ratio, for example, for a particular mutual fund scheme, they'll know what it means. But let's start with standard deviation. I'm sure a lot of people in statistics class or in mathematics class have actually dealt with this, but how do you understand it in terms of how an equity mutual fund scheme is performing?
Absolutely, Alex. I think most of these ratios are available in fund fact sheets, multiple other websites. So investors really don't have to go ahead computing these. It's just about the interpretation of the number which comes up on the screen in front of you. So let's talk about standard deviation. Now, very simply put, standard deviation is a measure of volatility of the scheme. So when I say that the average return of a particular scheme has been, let's say 10%, and the standard deviation number shows us around, let's say 20%, which means that the scheme returns could be volatile from -20 to +20% of the average returns which the scheme has been generating, which again, to numerically interpret this thing, which means that the scheme returns can vary from 8% to 12%. So that's standard deviation. Now it looks very simple, but when you like really expand the term and say that what is two standard deviation returns for the scheme, then the return becomes -4 to +4, which means 6% to 14% if the average return is 10. 95% of the times, the returns of the scheme will fall between the range of two standard deviation, which means when you are investing in a scheme and you see the standard deviation number, you can very well interpret and say that the historical trend is that 95% of the times the return from this scheme will vary from two standard deviation minus to two standard deviations plus of the average returns. And that's where the standard deviation number becomes very, very handy. And the most important part here is you have to identify schemes in the same category amongst the same peer group which have lower standard deviation, which means the volatility is higher and the predictability of the returns is higher, hence, right? So if the schemes, let's say large cap category, you find a scheme with 20% standard deviation and one with 30% standard deviation, the one with 20, if all the other factors remaining same, the one with 20 is a better scheme to invest with because it has lesser volatility. The returns will deviate lesser from the average returns which have been shown historically to you. So that's how you interpret standard deviation.